All right, well, we are honored to have Jordan Carroll, Senior Software Engineer at Full Story, on with us today. Hi, Jordan. Thanks for joining us.
Sure, no problem, Brett. Glad to be here.
All right, and for anyone unfamiliar with Full Story, they're an Atlanta-based digital experience company. They serve clients like Forbes, GMC, JetBlue, and Peloton. And for time's sake, I'll just say you can find them on LinkedIn or at fullstory.com. So Jordan, are you ready for a quick fire session?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So how did you find your first software engineering job?
So my older brother encouraged me to go to a career fair at Southern Polytechnic State University, where I attended school studying computer science. And I talked to one of the branch managers at Georgia Tech Research Institute, and he said, email me if you're not a deadbeat, and we'll talk about hiring you. I emailed him later that day, and he said my start date was like July 7th, and this was my hourly rate. So I was a sophomore in college and literally got my first software engineering job through email, no interview required. It was pretty insane.
Wow, that's awesome. Glad to hear they didn't think you're a deadbeat, even just off of an email. So that's great. I know that's not how a lot of people get it. So interesting. I always like to hear a different story. All right, on to number 2. What advice would you give to recent bootcamp graduates who are looking to land their first role?
So I had this conversation recently, and the thing that I encouraged this person I was speaking with was to kind of set aside caring about salary for a little bit. And focus more on like what you would be learning in that role. And a lot of times I think that in order to learn well, it requires that you work with a bunch of smart people. So focus on like the tech stack that you'll be learning at the job, and making sure you're surrounding yourself with smart people.
Yep, I give that advice to people all the time. I think fits exactly with what I hear a lot of people say. So good advice there. So speaking of stacks, what stack do you work with over at Full Story, and what do you like and not like about it?
Yeah, so we use Go on the back end, and we use React on the front end, so JavaScript, common. I work primarily on the client side, so doing React development, which is kind of my specialization. Kind of stayed away from the full stack title because I love working in the browser. And what do I not like about it? I would say we're kind of in this state right now where our front end is a little bit fragmented, and we're working to get it kind of fully into React. And I would say that's the thing I currently don't like about it. And that will unlock the ability for us to kind of stay on the bleeding edge, but we're not quite there yet. So.
Okay, all right, good. And what is the most exciting project that you're working on right now?
That exact project, converting Full Story to React, 100%. So
awesome.
I'm the project manager on that project. So.
Oh, that's perfect. And wouldn't it be a coincidence that we met at a React meetup, right?
Yeah. I gave a talk about the architecture we're using in Full Story that I had just given at Full Story. I was like, wow, I've already written a talk. I might as well give it at React Atlanta meetup. So.
That's really cool. So very serendipitous, and really was glad to meet you there too. So last question for you, Jordan. What has proven to be the biggest challenge in your career so far?
I was struggling to choose one, and so I chose 2, but I think they go hand in hand. And the first one was ego, and the second one was communication. So like earlier on, I believed I was really good at my job, and I'm pretty good at what I do, but my ego was an issue, right? So I believed that my expertise was just there, and people would just follow me, and that I wouldn't have to really clearly state my beliefs and opinions. And so that worked for a little bit at Georgia Tech. I was kind of in this like lead role, and people generally did follow me. I didn't have to communicate very clearly. But after I moved out of that position into more of a position where I wasn't necessarily leading the team, I realized that I wasn't very good at communicating my ideas, and I was struggling with thinking like, why aren't people just following and doing what I say we should do? So really had to dial back the ego and dial up my communication skills.
All right. Well, honestly, that is a very honest answer. And thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing your insights and experience with us today, Jordan. Until next time, have a great week.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Great to be here.